Another team that is really struggling, and I expect these struggles to continue, is the Giants. They lost to the Commanders 21-18, and the media got nervous because Daniel Jones has a $23 million injury guarantee, which he'll earn if he can't complete a physical before the beginning of next season. Should they bench Daniel Jones in New York?
Okay, so here's the thing. The problem for Daniel Jones is that everybody loves Drew Lock, and he's their backup. And, like, the world is obsessed with Drew Lock, and any opportunity to put Drew Lock in a football game.
Drew Lock too.
Exactly. Like, his interview after he beat the Seahawks last year, after he beat the Eagles last year when he was a Seahawk. Yeah. Like, the smiles post-game.
The little dances he beat.
Exactly. Like, everybody loves Drew Lock. So if you're Daniel Jones, you're like, get this guy out of here. So that's the number one problem, because it's like, do I think Drew Lock is actually better than Daniel Jones? Like, probably not. Right. But he is a really good backup quarterback, and he's got this like great charismatic personality. So if you're a New York Giants fan, you're like, like Daniel Jones isn't playing great, let's bring him in. Right. Now Daniel Jones obviously like had a terrible week 1, a much better week 2. He was much more comfortable in the pocket. The O-line gave him time to hit most of his throws, and he's coming off that ACL tear. So I think like week 1, he was just trying to like figure out kind of how to trust that knee again. So he was a lot better. I think like what everybody's talking about though in this game is the fact that the Giants didn't have a kicker. Yeah. And just like the irony, like I cannot get over the irony in this Giants game because so the Giants come in thinking like, okay, like we think our kicker's healthy. Yep. But clearly he's not healthy. I mean, he's taking warm-ups and he's like limping, like he looks uncomfortable. And so they start this. He aggravates his hamstring, I guess, in the kickoff. And Brian Dable says after the game, like, oh, well, we thought he was healthy, but like Brian Dable is on the field, like watching him take his warm-up kicks. And it's like, if you feel like you need to watch your kicker, like take their warm-up kicks to make sure they're going to be okay, then you probably should have elevated somebody to have as a backup. Anyways, the irony is incredible because the Commanders score 7 field goals to beat them, and the Giants can't make a kick all game long.
Which is hilarious. The Giants are the first team in NFL history to score 3 or more touchdowns, allow none, and still lose in regulation, which is insane. So that's why I'm personally saying, yes, bench Daniel Jones, because you have a bottom 5 offensive line and a bottom 5 receiving room and receiving options as a whole, because you let Saquon walk, which in week 1, that touchdown, the receiving touchdown that he had out there in Brazil, I was so thoroughly impressed on that wheel route. It was insane. But obviously, other than that, Darren Waller has also walked, retiring from the NFL with the Giants. And so my thing is just, you have no receivers, no offensive line, a guy who just tore his ACL. Take him out because you don't want him to be the quarterback of the future. I mean, we saw it during Hard Knocks. They talked about it. They said, would you trade up to go for Daniels, who they played against this week? And they were like, yeah, we would trade up to 2 to go get Daniels. So if they're willing to trade up for Jaden Daniels, they're clearly looking out at quarterback anyways. Take this dude out. You know your team is trash. You're not winning anything this year. It's time to get ready for a Daniel Jones-less New York Giants, which is, it is what it is. It's kind of crazy because Carolyn, our producer, got in my ear and just told me that there's breaking news to us, and this won't be breaking news to you guys once you hear it. But Bryce Young is getting benched, which is insane to think about after, 17 games of football we've watched him play. How do you feel about that?
Well, I just the Carolina Panthers are so perplexing because I'm like, what are you expecting? It's like I feel bad. I feel bad for Bryce Young. I think that's the reaction I'm getting right now. Like I feel bad for Bryce Young because what's he supposed to do in that offense? Yeah. Yeah. Do I think Andy Dalton's going to do a better job? Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I mean, he's a veteran. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like he's a veteran. He can maybe get the team together a little bit, get them with some structure, a little bit of organization. I do actually, now that I think about it, I do think the team will be better under Andy Dalton, but I don't think it's the best for the long-term success of the team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it's best for the long-term plan for the team. My thing is, I've seen countless videos now, and I'm a Chargers fan, so I was locked into the game this weekend. But Bryce Young was pouting and looked like he was about to cry, like a kid who got his candy stolen from him. The last 2 weeks, not even just the first week. I mean, he got 47 points put on his head in week 1, and then the Chargers went up and put up 26-3 against him in week 2. This dude looks like a kid that's just pouting and just got his butt whooped. Honestly, just belt to butt. I won't say the other word, but belt to butt. You know what I'm saying? So I think it was probably time, because you need somebody who's going to be in there, who's going to be energetic, excited. And with the season slipping away, which is why they kind of made this decision, they wanted to not be a team that's going to win 2 games, 3 games, and there probably still will be, but at least they can have some new energy, somebody who is excited, somebody who we know in Andy Dalton, who's always a commander of the huddle, of the locker room, a guy who's a leader, a captain, and they have that for sure with him. Right now, we don't know what Bryce Young is as a football player. So for the foreseeable future, I would say this is a good move, but for the long-term future, I'm out on it as well. Lastly, I know you wanted to talk about this. I talked about it a little bit with George last episode. The Patriots lost to the Seahawks in overtime. You wanted to talk about that game. How did you feel about that game, Laura?
Well, okay, so the Patriots cannot win with their receivers only making 3 completions for 19 yards.
Yes.
That's what I think about that game. Clearly, the Patriots need to get their passing game going, and get their wide receivers more involved, not just Hunter Henry, not just their tight ends.
Yep.
Because you need to be able to soften up the middle for that running game to actually be effective. Mm-hmm. And the Patriots could just never get their receivers going at all. And the thing with Jacoby Brissett, okay, so he's a great game manager. Great pocket presence, great leader, but he doesn't push the ball down the field.
No.
We knew that coming into the season. And I think Next Gen Stats, one of their graphs after the game was where Jacoby Brissett, where he even attempted his passes.
Right.
He didn't attempt a single pass beyond 20 yards. And I think there was one pass that was right around the 20-yard line, 2 beyond 15 yards. Everything else was within 10 yards.
Yeah.
And, the receptions that you see were just yards after catch.
Yeah.
And that is an issue, especially when you want to get the run game going. But the thing that confuses me, though, is that the run game was pretty effective, but play action was just not effective in this game.
Yeah.
And it was something that one of the Patriots beat reporters actually brought up after the game. And Jacoby Brissett said this, which, Evan Lazar asked about the lack of play action success. Yeah. And Brissett said, they had a good tell on us whenever we tried to push the ball down the field. They had a good plan for as far as not letting us get behind them. We tried to, but we have to find ways to get on top of that and continue to push the ball down the field. I thought they did a good job of playing 2 deep safeties a lot of the times when we were trying to take our shots. Mm-hmm. And it's if teams know that week 2, if they have a tell on you week 2, what's going on. So I think that is kind of the area of my concern, is just the lack of play action success, and why isn't play action successful?
Yeah, you had a lot to say right there. So I'm going to go back to the receivers. My whole thing about this is people have been asking, the receiving room, how can it get better? How can we make sure that they don't only complete 3 passes for 19 yards and a touchdown to Jalen Pope? Congratulations. Woo, Jalen Pope with a touchdown. They're asking me about this. And my whole thing is, we knew coming into this year that this was the worst receiving room in the NFL. And trust me, once again, Chargers fan, I've seen a bad receiving room with QJ and Lad McConkey and whatever. That's a terrible receiving room. This one's worse. When people are on Twitter talking about, Pop Douglas, who is a 6th round, 210 pick in the NFL draft, is upset and not taking media availability because he didn't get any targets, that's a problem. We're relying on a 6th rounder who's about 5'10" to make plays for us right now at the beginning of the season, for a guy who's a second-year player in the NFL. That's a problem. Also, my thing is like you said, we need to make plays down the field with the Patriots. 100%. I understand that. Check down Jacoby out of the game then. It's time for Drake May.
Exactly.
I told George, and he's like, no, calm down, because, George is, oh, no, it's not time yet, blah, 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 because, he's really in depth in this, man. I don't care about that. I look at this like how a fan looks at this. I want to see exciting plays. If we're going to lose anyways, I don't want to lose and watch Jacoby throw down a screen or something like that, or throw a check down. I don't want to see that. I want to see him making plays outside of the pocket, extending the drives. We know this offensive line, which honestly was pretty good against the Seahawks, is not that great. Their run blocking was incredible. Their pass blocking, not so much.
Their pass blocking wasn't good. Like, the one thing that I'll say for Brissett is for a guy that doesn't normally push the ball downfield, he didn't have time to go through like more than one of his reads. So
True.
like he wasn't really being put in a position to be kind of successful there. The thing with like what you're saying about like bring Drake May in, if you want to open up the passing game, that's, I think, the only solution given the way this roster is constructed right now.
Right.
That's the only way to move forward. Is it the right decision? I don't necessarily think it's the right decision if you're looking for the long-term success of the franchise. I think you need to wait just a little bit longer.
Yep.
Because, like you said, the offensive line, Jacoby Brissett was slow to get up. He was in pain.
He was.
Aren't you glad that was Jacoby Brissett and not Drake May?
I am, but as I told George in the last...
No offense to Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're going through that, but...
No, it sucks that he has to be the sacrificial lamb, but as I told George in the last episode, I think that Drake May gets out of these certain situations that Jacoby was putting himself in. I think that he's going to get rid of the ball a little bit faster than Jacoby is going to. And I think he's younger and has better legs and is going to actually run the football when the pocket collapses on him, instead of just saying, okay, let me hold it, throw it at somebody's feet, maybe late, or, take this incredible sack. Of course, if Drake May was quarterback, he's going to take sacks. Every quarterback in the entire National Football League gets hit by a defensive lineman at some point in the season. There's no question about that, but I think that Drake May would be more exciting, would have these defensive lines kind of like holding their lines and holding the edge a little bit more, because they know they can't get outside of their containment, because they know Drake May is a guy who can turn a 5-yard sack into a 10-yard run at any time.
Yeah, I will say the one thing, though, even if you bring in Drake May, that I keep thinking about, it's like, okay, say he is able to scramble more, say he is able to escape these pressures, who's he going to really pass the ball to downfield? Like, which receiver is really going to be able to get separation?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I keep coming back to. I'm like, okay, put him in, but
yeah, no.
What's he going to do now? It's like, once you overcome one obstacle, there's another.
Yeah.
And so I just don't feel like there's a good answer, and that's when you come back to the fact that, okay, maybe this Patriots team isn't as good as people were hoping after week 1. But that being said, they have the Jets coming up.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the Jets do have a very highly regarded defense.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily going to get any easier for them, but Jermaine Johnson did tear his Achilles, who's one of their best edge rushers.
Yes.
And so now they have Will McDonald. It's his second year in the league. He did have an unbelievable game this week. He had a 3-sack effort and a forced fumble. And in addition with that, Reddick is still holding out for a new contract. So you know what? There might not be as much defensive line presence. So maybe I know the Jets have really good defense, but maybe this week in particular, they can take advantage of it.
Maybe they can. 2-1. We hope so. We have a lot of hope in New England.